This vote and a similar one that failed in the Senate on Wednesday show the deep divisions in Congress over the president's actions. Today, the House votes on a war powers resolution aimed at reining in President Donald Trump's military action against Iran as the conflict continues to intensify and spread.
So the war powers reside in Congress. This is us asserting our war power.
Democrats are roundly in support of the measure. Most Republicans remain opposed.
Well, I think it's setting up good for the president. Nobody wants to limit the president's ability to fight these insurgents for right now.
Today's push comes after a similar measure failed to pass the Senate on Wednesday. Democrats say Congress, not the president, should decide if the U.S. enters a war.
This vote is about enforcing the Constitution, but it's also about the president's failure to seek approval from the American people.
Some lawmakers say they still haven't gotten much clarity from the White House.
Hello and welcome, guys. Adam is here. Donald Trump just lost his mind, and the proof is playing out in real time on the House floor today. After the Senate voted 53-47 to block a war powers resolution that would have stopped Trump's unlawful war against Iran, the fight has now moved to the House, and Trump is going absolutely psycho, demanding that Republicans fall in line and vote against stopping his unauthorized military campaign.
Senate lawmakers just voted down a war powers resolution introduced by multiple Democrats. If passed, the resolution would have blocked President Trump from ordering more strikes on Iran without congressional approval.
The yeas are 47, the nays are 53. The motion to discharge is not approved.
On Capitol Hill Wednesday, Republican senators voting down a war powers resolution aimed at blocking President Trump from ordering more strikes on Iran without congressional approval.
This is constitutional crisis territory, and it's happening because Trump ordered the Senate to kill that resolution, and they obeyed like good little soldiers. Let me break down exactly what happened in the Senate because it reveals everything about who controls Washington right now. The vote was 53 against the war powers resolution, 47 in favor. On the 47 side, you had every Democrat except one, plus Republican Rand Paul, who actually understands that the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war, not the president.
So there were only two lawmakers who voted against party lines earlier today, but both were expected. John Fetterman, a Democrat, voting against the resolution, and Rand Paul, a Republican, voting for it. However, four GOP senators who were mostly undecided going into the day ended up voting against it as well, including Lisa Murkowski and Tom Tillis.
War with Iran. We've been at war for a long. They've been at war with us. We're finally at war with them. It's an undeclared state of war. I'm glad we're finally taking this regime on.
As expected, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman was the only Democrat who voted with the 53 nays, and Kentucky's Rand Paul the only Republican with the 47 yeas. Meanwhile, other Democrats voicing their displeasure with the result.
On the 53 side, you had every other Republican plus one Democrat, John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, who decided to give Trump exactly what he wanted and voted against blocking an unauthorized war. Fetterman just handed Trump a victory that will get American soldiers killed, and for what? To prove he's not like other Democrats? To show he can work across the aisle? To demonstrate his independence? He just voted to keep American troops in harm's way in a war that Congress never authorized, a war that's already going badly, a war that started with an approval rating lower than the Iraq War at its absolute lowest point. Think about that comparison. The Iraq War started with 70% approval. At its most unpopular, it bottomed out at 42%. This war against Iran started at 41% approval. 41%. That means most Americans don't want this war. Most Americans understand this is a mistake. Most Americans know we're being dragged into another Middle East disaster with no clear mission, no exit strategy, and no congressional authorization. But the Senate just voted to let it continue anyway. Now the fight moves to the House, and this is where Trump is going absolutely nuclear. He's demanding that every Republican vote against the war powers resolution. He's threatening political retaliation for anyone who dares to assert Congress's constitutional authority. He's ordering his loyalists to block any attempt to stop his war, and the arguments they're making are straight out of the authoritarian playbook. First, they're using the "now that it started, we can't stop it" excuse. Susan Collins, who's running for re-election in Maine, literally said passing the War Powers Resolution would send the wrong message to Iran and to our troops. She said providing unequivocal support to service members is critically important. This is the same argument that kept us in Iraq for 20 years. The same argument that got thousands of Americans killed for no reason. The same argument that's been used by every administration to justify every disastrous military adventure. And Collins is recycling it like its original thought. David Grouf, the Democratic candidate running against Collins in Maine, who's also a veteran, responded perfectly. He said, "What else can we do but support the war? Are we really doing this already? This thing just started. This is the worst version of why we stayed in Iraq for so long, for the dumbest reasons, and being done by the same people who have clearly learned nothing." That's exactly right. We're repeating every mistake of the last 20 years, and the people making the decisions are the same ones who made those mistakes in the first place. They haven't learned anything because they don't have to. They have a compliant Congress that won't check them, a media that mostly goes along, and a public that's distracted and exhausted. Second, they're using the Putin playbook. Don't call it a war. Call it something else. Call it a significant military operation. That's what MAGA Republican Congressman Mike Flood said before today's House vote. He literally stood up and argued it's not a war, it's just a significant military operation. This is word games designed to evade constitutional requirements. If it's not a war, then Congress doesn't need to declare it. If it's not a war, then the president can do whatever he wants. If it's not a war, then we don't need to have a real debate about whether American blood should be spilled. But here's the truth. American service members are dying. 3 already confirmed dead, 5 wounded, jets shot down, families getting notifications, funerals being planned. You can call it whatever you want, but dead soldiers don't care about your semantic games. Dead soldiers are still dead whether you call it a war or a special military operation or a significant military engagement or whatever other euphemism you invent to avoid constitutional accountability. Speaker Mike Johnson is fully on board with Trump's demand. He got the order from Trump to tell every MAGA Republican in the House that they will be politically rewarded for voting against the War Powers Resolution. Johnson is out there claiming the American people want this war, which is a lie backed by zero evidence. 41% approval says the American people don't want this war. But Johnson doesn't care about evidence. He cares about keeping Trump happy. And Johnson isn't just pushing to block the War Powers Resolution. He's already talking about the next step: war funding, supplemental assistance. At least $50 billion, according to reports, to provide additional funding for this war. $50 billion that could go to healthcare, to affordable housing, to education, to actually helping the American people. Instead, it's going to build more munitions for a war in Iran that's already a disaster, that's already getting Americans killed, that Congress never authorized. The debate on the House floor today has been remarkable. Democrats are making the case that should be obvious to everyone. Congressman Castro laid it out clearly. This war is unconstitutional. It's unlawful. The president doesn't have the authority to start wars on his own. The founders were explicit about this. They gave Congress the power to declare war for a reason. They didn't want one person deciding when the country goes to war. They'd seen what happens when kings have that power. They designed a system to prevent it, and Trump is trampling all over that system. Republican Thomas Massie, to his credit, is also making the case against this war. Massie understands that the Constitution doesn't disappear just because a Republican is in the White House. He's articulating clearly why this war is unlawful, why the administration's justifications are lies, why Congress needs to reassert its authority. Massie is one of the few Republicans left who actually believes in constitutional limits on power, and he's proving it on the House floor today. Congressman Raskin is making equally powerful arguments. He's pointing out that the War Powers Act exists precisely to prevent exactly what Trump is doing. The law is clear. The president has 60 days to conduct military operations without congressional approval, but after that, he needs authorization. Trump didn't even wait 60 minutes. He just started bombing, and now he's demanding Congress bless his lawlessness. David Grauf, the veteran running in Maine, made a point that needs to be heard everywhere. He said we need an entirely new War Powers Act, one that automatically declares any unauthorized war unlawful before it even starts. We shouldn't have to pass resolutions to stop wars. Wars should be automatically illegal unless Congress explicitly authorizes them. The burden should be on the president to get permission, not on Congress to stop something that's already happening. Meanwhile, Trump's chief propagandist Caroline Leavitt was asked today why Trump ordered the military to strike when he did. Why that timing? Why that target? What was the intelligence? Her answer? He had a good feeling. Literally. He had a feeling. A feeling that Israel was going to attack Iran first, and that Iran would then attack the United States, so we had to attack first for Israel. Not based on evidence, not based on intelligence, not based on any assessment of threat, based on a feeling. This is how the most powerful military in human history is being deployed. On feelings, on vibes, on whatever Trump felt like doing that morning, and the MAGA Republicans in Congress are defending it. They're blocking efforts to stop it. They're preparing to fund it with $50 billion of your money. They're calling it patriotic to support a war that's already unpopular, that's already getting Americans killed, that's already destabilizing the entire region. Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin is out there saying this war is an opportunity for geopolitical change. Geopolitical change. That's what he's selling. Not healthcare, not education, not affordable housing, not lower prices. Geopolitical change. As if Americans are sitting around thinking, you know what we really need? More geopolitical change in the Middle East. That's been working out so well for the last 20 years. Here's what geopolitical change actually looks like right now. It looks like American credibility collapsing around the world. It looks like our allies questioning whether they can trust us. It looks like our enemies seeing weakness and opportunity. It looks like the United States getting dragged into another endless war with no clear mission, no exit strategy, and no congressional authorization. It looks like the same mistakes we've been making for decades, made by the same people who've learned nothing. The House vote today is critical. Even though the Senate already failed, even though Trump got his way in the upper chamber, the House can still send a message. The House can still stand up for the Constitution. The House can still say that Congress, not the President, decides when America goes to war. The House can still tell Trump that he doesn't get to be a king, that he doesn't get to start wars on feelings, that he doesn't get to send Americans to die without asking permission first. Every Democrat should vote for the War Powers Resolution. Every Republican who actually believes in the Constitution should vote for it. Every member of Congress who swore an oath to defend the Constitution should vote for it. Because that oath isn't conditional. It doesn't say, defend the Constitution except when a president from your party wants to ignore it. It doesn't say, defend the Constitution unless it's politically inconvenient. It says, defend the Constitution, period. The War Powers Resolution isn't some partisan trick. It's not a Democratic attack on Trump. It's a congressional assertion of constitutional authority. It's Congress doing its job. It's Congress saying that the power to declare war belongs to the people's representatives, not to one person with a feeling and a Twitter account. And Trump's response to all of this has been pure psycho. He's been posting constantly, attacking anyone who dares to question his war, calling anyone who votes for the resolution a traitor, threatening primaries, threatening endorsements, threatening to destroy anyone who crosses him. He's acting like a dictator whose power is being challenged, because that's exactly what's happening. His power is being challenged by the Constitution itself, and he can't handle it. The irony is that Trump used to present himself as the anti-war candidate. He used to talk about getting out of endless wars. He used to say the Iraq War was a disaster and a mistake. Now he's starting his own war, a war with no clear purpose, no congressional authorization, no public support, and no end in sight. He's become exactly what he claimed to oppose. And the MAGA Republicans in Congress are going along with it. They're voting to block efforts to stop the war. They're preparing to fund it with billions. They're calling anyone who objects unpatriotic. They've completely abandoned any pretense of constitutional principle in favor of absolute loyalty to one man. The House vote today matters. It matters for the service members who are in harm's way right now. It matters for the families who will get notifications if this war continues. It matters for the Constitution that's being shredded by a president who thinks he's above the law. It matters for democracy itself, because if Congress won't check a president who starts an unauthorized war, then the system has failed. Watch the vote today. Watch which Republicans join Massey in defending the Constitution. Watch which Democrats show up to do their jobs. Watch how Trump reacts when the results come in. Because this is bigger than one war. This is about whether Congress still matters. This is about whether the Constitution still means anything. This is about whether we're still a democracy or whether we've become something else entirely.